The story of Jim Hopper in the show, Stranger Things, is a journey about a man who builds walls around himself brick by brick out of grief and guilt, and how, against all odds, he slowly and painfully takes those walls down again. When we first meet him, he is the chief of police in the sleepy town of Hawkins, Indiana, but he is not a hero, he is a man surviving. He is gruff, often hungover, eating terrible TV dinners alone in his cabin, and his main method of communication involves a lot of grunts, sarcasm, and yelling. This is because years before our story begins, Hopper experienced a profound tragedy, the loss of his young daughter, Sara, to cancer. That loss shattered him, ending his marriage and hollowing out his heart. To feel that kind of love and have it ripped away was so terrifying that he decided never to be that vulnerable again. He shut down completely, building a fortress around his emotions where nothing and no one could get in to hurt him. But then, a boy named Will Byers goes missing. And with that event, the strange and terrifying world of the Upside Down crashes into Hawkins. Hopper, almost against his own will, is pulled back into a world of caring, into a fight that matters. His journey from a closed-off loner to a devoted father figure for the young girl known as Eleven is the core of his character arc. It is not smooth or easy. He resists it. When he first finds Eleven hiding in the woods, his police chief instincts kick in. She is a subject, a puzzle to be solved. But as he sees her fear, her confusion, her incredible power paired with a childlike innocence, the bricks in his wall begin to loosen. He sees in her a spark of the life he lost, a chance, perhaps, to protect someone when he couldn't protect his own daughter. He takes her in, hides her in his cabin, and a clumsy, wordless routine begins. He shows care not through speeches, but through actions, making her giant, terrible-looking but loving pancakes, buying her colorful clothes, setting up rules to keep her safe. Their communication is built on shared silence, on simple gestures, on the rhythm of coexisting. He becomes her protector, her dad, long before either of them would dare say the word. This is the context that makes his famous letter in the final episode of the third season so powerful. It is the culmination of all his internal struggle, a moment where he finally replaces action with words, where he chooses to be vulnerable on purpose. The letter itself, which he intends for Eleven and his adopted daughter, Joyce Byers, to read one day, is a masterclass in vulnerable communication because it is so profoundly, awkwardly human. It is not a grand, poetic declaration. It is the messy, frustrating, and beautiful work of a man trying to put feelings into sentences for the first time in a decade. He starts not with love, but with rules. He lays out his heart-to-heart rules for Mike and Eleven's relationship, and they are hilariously Hopper, rigid, overprotective, and delivered with a comedic bluster that masks his deep fear. He talks about keeping the door open 3 inches, a literal rule that becomes a metaphor for the emotional openness he himself is struggling to learn. This is the genius of the letter. It shows his growth while also honestly showcasing his flaws. He admits he doesn't know how to talk about feelings. He admits he messed up, he admits he was scared and acted out of that fear by yelling and threatening Mike. This admission of fault is the first key to vulnerable communication, accountability. He doesn't make excuses, he simply states, "I screwed up." He explains his fear came from a place of seeing Eleven grow up and change, and the terror that brought him, the terror of losing another daughter, this time not to illness, but to time and to her own independence. Then, the letter pivots into its most heartbreaking and beautiful section. He stops talking about rules and starts talking about hope. He tells them about his dream of a simple, normal life, watching a game, talking about boys and school. Having a big, loud, chaotic family dinner. For a man who has lived in lonely silence for so long, this dream is everything. He is painting a picture of the future he is fighting for, a future built not on surviving, but on living. And then, he gives them the key to his heart. He tells them about his deepest pain, the loss of Sara. He explains that after she died, he shut everyone out, including Joyce, and that he lived in darkness. But then, he says, "I met someone. And she helped me. She helped me in a way that I didn't even know I needed." He is, of course, talking about Eleven. This is the ultimate vulnerable act, connecting his past trauma to his present love. He is telling her, "You saved me. You brought me back to life." He gives her the reason for his overprotectiveness, not as an excuse, but as an explanation from a wounded heart. He makes his fear understandable. Finally, he ends with the words he could never say out loud, the words that complete his journey from a broken man to a father. "Please, for the sake of your poor old dad, keep the door open 3 inches." And then, the simple, devastating sign-off from Dad. The power of this communication lies in its timing and its honesty. Hopper writes this letter believing he is about to sacrifice himself to save the town and his family. He thinks these are his last words. There is no pretense, no holding back, because he believes he will never have to face the awkwardness of them being read. He is speaking from what he believes is the edge of forever, and that strips away all his remaining defenses. It is a raw blueprint of his soul. When Eleven and Joyce read it after his presumed death, it is not just a goodbye, it is a map to understanding him completely. It explains his gruffness, his anger, his fear, and the immense, clumsy love that was underneath it all the entire time. It gives Eleven the proof she desperately needs, that she was loved, that she was a daughter, that she had a home and a father. The letter does what all truly vulnerable communication aims to do: it bridges the gap between two hearts. It takes the feelings he showed through actions, the pancakes, the protection, the fights, and translates them into a language that can be held onto, reread, and understood. It turns his love from something implied into something stated, undeniable, and permanent. In the end, Jim Hopper's story and his letter teach us that vulnerability is not the opposite of strength, it is its foundation. His toughness meant nothing without the capacity to love that he eventually revealed. The letter shows that being vulnerable is not about being perfect or eloquent. It is about being honest, even when your voice shakes on the page. It is about saying, "I was scared, I messed up, and I love you," all in the same breath. For a character who communicated in grunts and glares for so long, to finally choose words, simple, direct, heartfelt words, was his bravest act. It allowed the people he loved to see him, truly see him, perhaps for the first time. It cemented his role not just as a fighter against monsters from another dimension, but as a dad, flawed and terrified and loving, who finally found the courage to leave the door to his own heart wide open. And that, more than any battle he ever fought, is why his journey and his words resonate so deeply. It is a reminder that the hardest and most important thing we can ever do is to tell the people we love exactly what they mean to us. In plain, simple English, before it's too late.